Hi, in this video we'll look at how we can train Flux LoRa using AI toolkit on high-end GPUs like A100, H100s using this UI. This is specifically useful for folks who don't have machines with good VRAMs or maybe MacBook Pro users. I'm one of them. The script which we are going to look at next uses a service named Modal. This isn't a sponsored video by Modal, but I would love to get some free credits. Doesn't hurt. Yeah, you train using the UI which we just saw over here, and once the training is complete, it uploads the LoRa on HuggingFace. Please note that this isn't a detailed video explaining how to use AI toolkit step by step. There are already some good resources out on web you can refer to. I'll cover some basic configuration steps when training our Flux LoRa using this UI. I'll also cover some advanced options too. Now let's talk about setup. There are two services you need to sign up for. One is Modal and other is HuggingFace. We need to sign up for Modal because this is where we'll be training our LoRa on their GPUs. And you need to sign up for HuggingFace because once your more training is done, the LoRa's would be uploaded to this HuggingFace repos. Once you have signed up on both of these services, now we need to create a HuggingFace token. This is required to publish your LoRa once the training is done. For that, you need to go to your profile page, click on Settings tab. On the left side, you would see something called as Access Tokens. Over here, there's an option to create new token. Click on that. You need to select the right option because we need to allow script AI toolkit script to publish the LoRa files once the training is done. For that, you can create in the right token and just give any name you would prefer to give. In this case, I'll just write HF right token, and this would now create a right token for me. Make sure you copy this token somewhere and save it in your password manager in order to be able to use in next steps. Once you have created a HuggingFace token, we need to add that to the secrets in Modal. This is like an environment variables inside Modal. For that, you need to go to the secrets tab. Over here, click on create new secret. There's already an option to create HuggingFace secret. Select that. By default, it would name the key as HF token. Please stick to that because that's what we are using inside the code. Paste your key over here. Click on next. And this is important. Just when naming your secret, also name it like a HuggingFace secret because that's another configuration which is being used in script. So if you change this, it wouldn't work. The name should match HuggingFace secret. All this info is added in README, so don't sweat about it. Click on create, and this would now add HuggingFace token to your environment variable. Once a HuggingFace token is added to the Modal secret, we can now move to cloning this repository. I'll add the link to this repository in video description. Once you clone this repo, there are 3 steps you need to do. First is you can activate the Python virtual environment. Second is to install the Modal. This is like a Modal client library which would let us deploy this app. So you can run pip install Modal for that. Third step is to run Modal setup. This is required in order to authenticate with Modal. This would be used in the next step when we start deploying to Modal. This would do nothing but redirect you to Modal's website where you just have to authenticate it, creating token for you. Once you click on authorize, you should be redirected back and it should write that token to your workspace, creating a modal.toml file. With this setup, now in this particular terminal session, you are authenticated with Modal. You can deploy the app using the command modal source app.py. This would start deploying the code which we have written inside the source folder to the Modal. This was a little quicker in my case because I already deployed it, but if you're deploying it for first time, it might take some time. But good thing is you just have to do it once. Once it is deployed, the app would be available at this URL. Let's get started with training our Flux LoRa using this URL. I'll copy this URL and just open it. Over here, now there are few things we need to configure in order to start training our LoRa. First is you have to name your LoRa. I'm trying to train one of the characters from Better Call Saul series. The German guy, his name starts with Ben. I'll name it Ben LoRa, and maybe I'll add some suffix. This would define the name of the LoRa file which would be uploaded at HuggingFace. Accordingly, name your LoRa as per that. Now for the trigger word, if you have been training LoRa's for a while, you know why trigger word is used. I wouldn't cover that, but in this case, I'll use some term which doesn't represent something in real world, right? Maybe some trigger word like this. Now I have to upload images. I have his 10 images I found on web and I'll upload those. Once upload is complete, you should see those uploaded images over here. Now to add captioning, you can you're free to use any captioning tool you want as per your choice, but it does provide, like AI toolkit does provide you to add AI captioning using this Florence 2 model from Microsoft. All you have to do is just click on this. This would now start generating the image captions describing each image in detail using this Florence 2 model. So we'll have to just wait for that. Once it is done generating image captions for all the images in your dataset, this should look like this. A trigger would be added at the end of each sentence. While training, it would replace with whatever word we are using over here. We don't have to worry about that. Now once it is done, now you can configure the number of steps, the learning rate, the typical stuff you do when you train your LoRa. These are the basic parameters which you can use. Let's have some fun and use some advanced options. With advanced options, you can configure this in a viable format. I'll try to use some custom options which I came across recently from the guy named as Last Pen. He suggested some really cool thing that if you're training your Flux LoRa, you just have to train your 2 layers on some of the images, and with a LoRa rank of like 128, and it generates a really good LoRa in like 20 to 30 minutes on good high power GPUs, and the output safe tensor file is just 9 MB. Also, there's some good Reddit thread discussion about this as well. You can check that out. And good thing is, like with AI toolkit, there's an option to configure very specific layers you want to train it to. Like you can train specific layers on the LoRa using some parameters in the YML I was talking about. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm going to copy some of the configurations I've used previously. Now let's look at advanced options really quickly. The things which I've changed from like the default thing that AI toolkit provides is I have changed the rank to 128. The alpha has to match the rank, so I have set it to 128. This options which we just talked about, which lets you train this on very specific layers like layer number 7 and 20, allowing you to reduce your training time as well as get almost nearly same output. I haven't tried it before, but I've heard that it works on some of the images. So let's find out if it works or not. Another thing we have to set is we have to make sure that push to hub is set to true. This would make sure that once your training is completed, it would upload the LoRa to the HuggingFace. And you can set this HF private to true. This would make sure that the repo to which it would upload, that would be private by default if you don't want to expose it to public. When it comes to training, things which I have changed is I have set the steps to 2000. Again, vary based on like what you're trying to train. I'm trying to train character over here from that Better Call Saul series I was talking about. For style LoRa's number of steps and things could vary. Another thing which I have changed is I have set gradient checkpointing to false and gradient accumulation steps to 0. I'm not sure what these options are to be honest, but this again comes from that Reddit thread where it was suggested to set these values, and we are just trying that out and see how it works. Rest of all the options, there's no need to change anything. Just for this, make sure you sample every 250 steps, so that this would run the below test prompts on the LoRa's which are generated. Like that, it's like it does some checkpointing at certain steps, like it saves that LoRa at every steps till 2000. So for it would save at 250, 500 and so on till 2000 steps, and at every step whenever that LoRa is saved, you can run this prompt to see the progression of that training. So once you have set all this up, added images and added the captions to them, added trigger word, named your LoRa, you can start training. This would trigger the training process behind the scenes. Now if you want to check the logs, all you have to do is go to the Modal, go to this particular app which we have deployed, click on app logs. Over here you will see the logs in detail. There is also another way to check this log is by going to the actual logs tab and clicking on this. So now this has started that process with the config which you have set up right now. So you can see over here it uploaded the data set and also all the configuration parameters which we have set, like the prompts, the seed, save every steps. You get the gist. Looking at the logs, you can see the training process has started. Initially it fetches the 3 files, the Flux, VAE, the checkpoint models and all those things. It might take some time. After that, your process starts where it tries to segregate your data set based on the image resolutions and all. Once it is done with all that, it starts the training. Currently training is at 6%. We have configured it at 2000 steps. You can, looking at this progress, you can see that it might take roughly anywhere between 20 to 25 minutes based on this parameters which we have set, where we are just training it on very specific layers. You don't have to do it. I think this might be more like an hit and miss kind of thing, but doesn't hurt to try it, right? Instead of looking at this boring logs, let's continue once the training is complete. Once the training is complete, your LoRa would be uploaded to HuggingFace model. But before we look at that, you can see in the logs that it was trained on all the 2000 steps over here. All the safe tensors file are uploaded to HuggingFace repo. So it would create the HuggingFace repo with the name which we used for it. By default, it adds all the modal card and uploads the file as well. The LoRa safe tensor file you're looking for is the final one. It did generate and saved it at every step after 1000. The final file would be this one. It also generates a sample at every steps where we asked it to save. You can check those images as well. This is the final file which you can use in your workflow. The UI which we just saw in this video where we train LoRa is a part of AI toolkit repo. All I've done is I've added a wrapper script which deploys this AI toolkit repo on Modal, so we can use it on high-end GPUs without having to worry about running it locally. I'm also planning to add a similar script to run Flux Gym on Modal as well. If you guys are interested, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.